सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। हरि ओम। Om. May Brahman protect us both. May Brahman bestow upon us both the fruit of knowledge. May we both obtain the energy to acquire knowledge. May what we both study reveal the truth. May we cherish no ill feeling toward each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishna Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. Om Sthapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmasvarupine avatara varishtaya Ramakrishnaya te namaha. In our last class, we discussed how Kshudiram went to various pilgrimages and how he went to Gaya and there had a vision of his ancestors as well as Gaya Vishnu, how Gaya Vishnu promised that he will be born as his son, and some of the special spiritual visions he had like Mother Shitala, etc. Then we also dealt with a little bit with Chandramani Devi's visions. And some more we are going to deal in our class. Today's class, first Chandramani's visions, then second Ram Kumar's also. He was also extraordinarily talented. Third, where does God incarnate and why does he incarnate in particular families? Fourth, family values. This is called Grihastha Ashrama values. These are the points we will try to discuss today. Before going to Chandramani, I would like to mention about Ram Kumar. Swami Saradananda mentions that every family member in Kshudiram's family had an extraordinary bent for spiritual life. All of them possess an extraordinary power in some way or the other. Kshudiram now, he had 3 male children, Ram Kumar, Rameshwar and Ramakrishna. So first, about Ram Kumar, he possessed a supernatural power. What is it? He was a great astrologer. By looking at a person, he can predict the future of that person. Ram Kumar had a wonderful vision one day while worshipping goddess who had become his chosen deity. He felt as if she was marking with her own finger on the tip of his tongue some mantra letters which made him perfect in astrology. Henceforward, whatever he asserted would come true. Simply by looking at a patient, he could know whether he would be cured or not. He acquired some fame in those parts for his predictions. So that's a great attraction, Many people want to know, patients want to know whether they are going to get cured or not. Anyway, it is also dangerous because if he says you are not going to get cured, and it is dangerous. But he had that power. So, how many of you know the power? Once he went to Calcutta to bathe, and there he saw a rich man's wife being taken in a palanquin to take bath, lest other people may see her face. This Ghumta business is very prevalent in Bengal also, not in South India, in Bengal. Yeah, the Holy Mother always, there's a lot of influences there. How many of you know about this incident? Most of you know. Very brief. Ram Kumar went on an auspicious occasion to take bath in Ganges, and then he happened to see a rich man brought his wife for bathing, and lest other people should behold him, he arranged for a palanquin to go right into the Ganges. There she will get down. But just one glimpse at her face, and he involuntarily words came out, alas, this lady will not survive this night. And the husband heard it. And he said, she was in the pink of health, no sign of any disease. So I will invite him to my house, and it is sure that these words will not come true. Then I will teach him a good lesson. With that intention, he politely invited, and Ram Kumar also accepted. By early morning, she had taken ill. Before the next sunrise, she was gone. Then the rich man had no option but to let him go. This is just an example of his power. And Ram Kumar also predicted about his wife. He was a married person. And he predicted that if any time his wife conceives, and then she will give birth to the child and she will die. So he was very happy that she did not conceive for many, many years. But then it so happened that she conceived, and by giving birth, passed away. Was that Akshay? Akshay. Then Sri Ramakrishna practically brought him up. And you see the tragedy, later on what happened? He did not inform Sri Ramakrishna that he was going to get married. And he went with Hriday Ram and then got married, came back, and Sri Ramakrishna found out the bride belonged to a Rakshas Gada, which is not suitable. And in spite of warning, then he went and then slept with her, and then he died very shortly. See, what does it mean? Sri Ramakrishna, if he is God, he had the power to save, but he didn't. Strangely, do you remember, he gave the same warning to Rameshwar, his elder brother. And he also told, don't sleep with your wife. Of course, who will listen? And he also passed away within a few days. Yeah. Anyway, this Ram Kumar came to know that his wife will die, and actually it came to pass. That is why he never took any interest, ever since he heard that his wife conceived, never took interest in the child, because he knew his wife was going to die. So this is the special feature of Shuddhiram's family. All of them were spiritual. Naturally, an incarnation will not be born in a family who are like that. But stranger things also can happen. You know, Swami Vivekananda was born in a family. They were three brothers. And one brother turned out to be very spiritual. But one brother turned out to be a total communist, dead against Swami Vivekananda in a way of speaking. He only acknowledged Swamiji as a patriot, but not as a great spiritual person like that. Very strange. So, there was, that is about Ram Kumar. He was a very devoted person. Actually, in the drama that we are going to discuss, Ram Kumar plays an important part. It was because of Ram Kumar that he gave that written opinion about Rani Rasmani's this thing, and he himself had to do the worship, and that is how he became the priest in the end, and very soon he handed it over to Sri Ramakrishna, as though these are all preparatory things for Sri Ramakrishna's future drama to occur. These are these incidents. I am not going in details because you are expected to read them. We are only discussing any important points with regard to them. Now, Shuddhiram returned from Gaya. So, what did he notice? You remember, he had his own wonderful experiences, the dream, he saw his ancestors. God promised to be born as his son. On his return home from Gaya, Shudiram did not tell anyone about the strange dream he had had at Gaya, but waited to see what would happen. The first thing he observed was the wonderful change that had come over Chandra Devi. In his eyes, she was no longer an ordinary woman, but indeed a goddess, an all-embracing love, springing from some unknown source, filled her heart and raised her to a lofty plane beyond all worldly desires. Shudiram found that Chandra Devi, who always loved as her own the children of the neighborhood, now felt a motherly affection for the family deity as her own son, and also regarded the goddess Sitala and the emblem of the god Rameshwar as her own children. You see, because God was in her womb, she became the mother of God. That means she became the mother of everybody. An interesting corollary we derive from this is, how does God love everything? What is one quality of God? He is the mother of the whole universe. After all, he gives birth. This whole creation, what we call Jagat, is his creation. And in that creation, there are three worlds. We call three lok. What are the three lok? The upper world, which consists of heavens, including Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, all those. What is the second world? This world, where we live. It is a mixture of both Sukha and Dukkha, good and evil. What is the third world? Naraka we call it. So, in one description it is 14 lokas. In another description it is 3 lokas. So, all these so-called gods and goddesses, Lakshmi, Saraswati, Shiva, Parvati, Vishnu, they are all created by whom? By God. Therefore, he who gives birth or she who gives birth is the mother. So naturally, what type of relationship he will have towards all these? Motherly relationship. So that is what happened to Chandra Devi now. That previously, this is Mother Sitala. She will be very angry if things are not carried on properly. And this is Vishnu. See, we feel we are far inferior to God. But what was Chandra Devi's attitude? She became the mother. They are like children, like Mother Yashoda, Mother Kausalya, etc. Formerly, her heart always used to be filled with awe at the time of the service and worship of these deities. But now, the force of love completely replaced that feeling. Any idea of fear or hesitation in her approach to the gods vanished, and she had now nothing to hide from them or ask of them. Instead, came the assurance that the gods were even closer to her than her own children, and an intense desire to sacrifice her all to make them happy, and an ecstasy of being bound to them in an eternal relation. One day she told Kshidiram, "When you were away, I had a strange dream in which I saw a luminous god lying on my bed." Kshidiram warned Chandra Devi not to tell her visions and experiences to anybody except me. Be free from all anxiety, and know for certain that whatever Raghuveer shows by his grace is for our own good. During my stay at Gaya, Gadadhar revealed to me in a supernatural way that a son would be born to us. Day by day, after she had conceived, Chandra Devi's spiritual visions and experiences became more numerous. Now, we know that when Kshidiram returned, then she told him what was the vision she had. She went to the Shiva temple, and then a light came overwhelmed her. She felt that it entered into her womb and she was with a child. And by that time, several months before, Shudiram was away. And nobody believed her. How can anyone believe? Because husband was away. So, but as soon as Kshudiram returned, she told everything. We discussed this point.
Yeah.
What would an ordinary husband think about his wife when she has conceived without his presence? Extraordinary. We have to understand how much faith they must have. Not only that, can you also imagine what was the impact of this condition of Chandra Devi in the village? There will be people who are skeptical. There will be people who don't. This is all bunk. What would be their opinion? Nothing of this we discussed. Same thing happened to Mother Mary. Before she met her husband, already she was with a child. But then God informed Joseph also that my son is going to be born in your womb. And he accepted it. That acceptance itself requires tremendous act of faith. You have to think about it. How much faith they must have to accept this kind of experiences. Yeah, it looks very strange. If some such thing happens to any one of you, what will you do? Householders, those who are married. It is said that at this time, means after her conceiving, her visions of gods and goddesses occurred almost daily. At times, she was aware of a purifying fragrance coming from the bodies of these holy beings and spreading over the whole house. Or again, she would hear celestial voices and be struck with wonder. She will not see, but she will smell. And she will also be sometimes hearing celestial voices. Do you remember, I mentioned Swami Turiyanandaji's experience at Puri temple. You remember? Yeah, one day Swami Turiyananda, I think he was going into the temple. Suddenly a divine fragrance. And he looked around. There were no flowers around. And he was wondering where from this fragrance was coming. So Ramakrishna appeared and explained, many celestial beings, they come to have darshan of Lord Jagannath. And from their bodies, this fragrance comes out. What a wonderful thing. That means, so when you are going to Puri or Dakshineshwar or Belur Math, if you get some such divine fragrance, can you distinguish and say whether it is coming from the incense stick or from other beings? These are the things we have to take on trust, on faith. Now just see, because Sri Ramakrishna explained, Swami Turiyananda also believed in all those things. Now, do you think celestial beings would not be visiting Dakshineshwar? Do you think celestial beings would not be visiting Belur Math, Jairambati, Kamarpukur? It is a fact. Just as we visit, they also visit. Why do they visit?
Because God's presence there.
Because they are also bound souls. See, two types of beings visit these holy places. Those who have attained perfection, they go there. What purpose? Tirthi kurvanti tirthani, to make those places even replenish. But we also go there. So many gods and goddesses living in higher celestial worlds, because of their punya karma, they have gone there, but they are not liberated beings. We have to make a distinction. They are having a higher type of enjoyment. They have done lot of merit, and therefore they enjoy higher worlds. Their punya requires no earthly happiness is equal for their punya. That's why they will go there and enjoy extraordinary happiness. But this is all karma phala. They are as bound, even could be worse than us, so far as knowledge of the self is concerned. And that's why we hear so many times these fellows are being cursed by rishis and others. Especially this Nahusha's story of Nahusha, if you remember in Mahabharata, Pandava's ancestor. He became Indra because of his punya. And then he wanted to go to Shichi Devi. Then she escaped, by a stratagem. You know that? So Nahusha, he became Indra. Indra is a post, like Prime Minister's post. So more votes means more punya there. And they will become Indra, Chandra and all those things. That means the other Indra, because of some mischief he has done, or his credit has become nil. He did not top it up. So he had to vacate his place. But Shichi Devi was there, very pious lady, a chaste woman. And Nahusha said, I am Indra, she is Indrani, I have a right to enjoy her. But she tried to say, no, that's my husband, you can marry somebody else. But he didn't listen. I want only her. Otherwise, I will force you. And she called some rishis and asked her for advice. They said, you do like this. You tell him, I will be very happy to fulfill your wishes, provided you come to me on a palanquin carried by rishis. Rishis are spiritual people. So he said, I am Indra, I can command everybody. So the rishis, they never carried. They were not happy. But they were not trained palanquin bearers. So they were fumbling. And then he kicked one of them. Sara means move forward, move for Jaragandi. Tirupati goes, move forward, like that. He was in a hurry to meet her. Then the rishis got angry, and that was the purpose. So, since you are saying Sara means through, you become a serpent. Dhabak, he fell down. And that's what had happened. So then he understood his pride had broken. Most of the time after suffering this will come. And then he told her, I'm sorry, I have done this one. And apologized to the rishis and said, what is the parihara? This is one of your descendants. He will come to you, you catch hold of him and ask him to answer certain questions. And if he answers, the day they answer, your curse will be lifted off. Anyway, what is the story about? Even though people may go to higher worlds, doesn't mean they are free. They are as bound or worse than us. So many stories are there. Why are these stories being propagated of those people? To teach us that going to those worlds is not our goal. And even if we go there, it doesn't mean that we are higher in character or anything. We can fall down. Therefore, such beings, some of them, they feel the necessity to come to earth to visit the spiritual places so that they can also become spiritual. How do we know? These are the incidents which come to us. Yeah, we have to understand. Almost every day, she would tell her husband about these visions and experiences and ask why they should come to her. Sridharam confronted her in various ways and told her not to be perturbed. We shall now relate an incident of this period. We were told that Chandra Devi described it thus to her husband with a feeling of awe. O revered one, she was telling to her husband. There is no end to the number of gods and goddesses who have shown themselves to me from time to time, ever since the day I saw the light, standing in front of the Shiva temple. Many of them I have never seen before, not even in pictures. Today I saw a god come on the back of a swan. At first I was startled, but then feeling sorry for him, as his face was red with the heat of the sun, I called him and said, "Oh dear little god riding a swan, your face looks burnt by the sun, and please come and eat a little bit of panta bhat so that you will get a little bit cool." What is the lesson? You let them ride on a swan, but they can sweat, their faces can become red, and they can suffer like any one of us. Yeah, sometimes worse than us, because Pantavat is not available for them, it's available only for us. I see many such forms. I do not worship or meditate on them, and yet I see them at any time of the day or night. Sometimes they come before me in human shapes and then dissolve into thin air. Can you tell me why I see all this? Is it some disease? At times I wonder if I am possessed by the spirit of the now dead Sukhalal Gosai. Anyway, the whole point is, so gods and goddesses means higher celestial beings do exist. By that very fact, we also have to have faith that people, ghosts, goblins, and all those unfortunate people also do exist. We know very little about them. And the whole modern science discards the whole thing as poo-poo, and then our faith will go. What is wrong? If once that faith goes, our faith in God also will become down. That's why we should not read any of those things. We should always read these things. So it is necessary to keep up our faith, and you can't, in faith you can't rationalize and say, this is true and this is not true. That means God exists, it is true, but ghosts and celestial beings do not exist. That is a wrong type of reasoning. Why is it wrong type of reasoning? Because whatever we don't know, whatever we are reading only from the scriptures, how do you prove or disprove what is written in the scriptures or what is not written in the scriptures? That is the point. In this respect, though this incident comes later on, we can also say, Chandra Devi's vision of Mother Lakshmi. You remember? Ram Kumar once went for worshipping Mother. That was what we call in Bengali festival calendar. There is a very special day, Kojagari Lokhi Puja. That is worshipping of the Mother Lakshmi on a particular day. This comes after Durga Puja. I think before Kali Puja it comes. Full moon day. So Ram Kumar went to the next village, I think Burshaba, to do the worship, and he was not coming. In villages there was no electricity, or the mothers get very anxious. So Chandramani Devi very anxious, so late. So late means it may be 8 o'clock, something like that. Then again and again she will go a little bit, because it's a small village. You just go few yards and it is all open space. And she was looking, he was not coming. And once she went out and suddenly she saw a most beautiful young lady coming. Extraordinarily beautiful young lady. Of course she did not recognize at first. So why did she come out into the way? To find out whether her son Ram Kumar was coming or not. That should be. As soon as she saw, her eyes alighted on the ornaments. And she never saw this kind of ornaments. And then she said, what are those special ornaments? Then that lady explained, these are called kundalas, karna kundala. These are this special design is a heavenly design, not available on earth. Afterwards, suddenly she remembered, afterwards, oh, did you see my son? Yes, I am coming from the same place. He is coming, the puja was a little bit late, he is coming, and in a short time he will be reaching you. Then only she asked her, it struck her, on this night, when women actually do not travel, this fully ornamented lady, and how she is going? Where are you going? Oh, I have to go a long distance. So, my child, why don't you remain tonight in our house? Tomorrow morning you then go. And then that lady smiled and said, no, I have got lot of work, I will come, but I will come later on. She just said and then disappeared. And after a few seconds, Chandramani Devi looked, and then she didn't find anybody because she was goddess, she disappeared. And then she understood, she guessed this might be Lakshmi Devi. And then she went and narrated to Kshudiram. He said, yes, you had a vision of the Mother Lakshmi. And same kind of vision happened to Holy Mother's mother at Shihor. Remember? She went to answer calls of nature, and from the under a tree, and this young girl came, descended, and embraced her. Then now they built a small temple in remembrance of that event. So this vision happened much later, but we are just narrating it. A great soul is born. Now Sri Ramakrishna's birth. It was some 10 minutes before dawn that Chandradevi felt the first pangs of labor. Dhani helped her to the lying-in room, and there almost immediately she gave birth to a male child. After doing the needful for Chandra, Dhani turned her attention to the baby, only to find that it had disappeared from the place where she had kept it. Very soon, two things we have to note. The child, sometimes the mothers take a long time, suffer a lot to give birth. But in this case, she felt the labor pangs, and then the Dhani found out he was as big as 6 months old. And then she just slipped from the mother's womb and disappeared. Where can he go? Then she looked. Where was he? There was a hearth full of ashes, and he was covered with full of ashes. And then he wondered what happened. Looking at it in the light, then he wondered at its beauty and its size. It looked like a 6 months old infant. Then this news was, of course, early morning and a very auspicious day. You can find out, what is it called? The astrologers will have that chart, Janma chart. And it is one of the extraordinary charts. According to those readings, this child is born with a divine amsha, and he will live in a temple on the banks of Ganga, and he will have lots of disciples. He will be Narayana Amsha Sambhota. This was predicted in his birth chart. Then, of course, Kshudiram knew all those things. Priests, they know all those things. Ascertaining the signs of the zodiac under which the child was born, Kshudiram, well versed in astrology, found that the boy had come into the world at an especially auspicious moment. It was February 18th AD 1836 according to the Gregorian calendar. Looking at the face of their beautiful child and assured of his unique destiny, Kshudiram and Chandramani thought themselves highly blessed. So that was the birth of Ramakrishna. Now, this is the birth we discussed, Chandramani Devi's, Ram Kumar's special powers, Chandramani Devi's visions. And now this, where does an incarnation really takes birth? Where means not place. We already said in villages. Why villages? Certain qualities are there. Now, in which families? So apply this to Jesus Christ, to Buddha, to Rama, to Krishna, to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shankaracharya, and of course, Sri Ramakrishna. Where does he take birth? Only in that family where divine qualities are most manifest. They may be poor people. Now, during our last classes, I told you, I think I didn't give you correct information. Kshudiram had 150 bighas of very good fertile land. And 3 bighas is 1 acre. 150 bighas means how many acres?
50.
Nearly 50 acres. That means is more or less he was quite wealthy according to those standards of those times. And then he lost all the 50 acres, nothing was left out. And then he lost his home, everything. He had to come with the piece of cloth. Now, why did that happen? We also discussed that. Why did it happen? You have to understand.
To show his character,
show him to
that
the Vanaprastha,
he was very
preparing him.
Because God has to be born in a poor family. Why? Because if he had preached Tyaga, renunciation, and he is enjoying all these wealthy family facilities, etc., people, we are all suspicious people. We always try to find some fault. Oh, you had everything and you are preaching only renunciation. And then in Bhagavatam also I mentioned there was a verse, God's promise. What is the promise? If I love somebody, I take away all their property. Have you heard about this? Bhagavatam specially God promises. If anybody is a close devotee of mine, first chopping block, all his attachments. Wealth means what? Attachments. Why? Because if there are no attachments to the world, the only attachment will be to God. Here is a psychological truth involved here. Suppose a man has got 50 attachments. And how much will be his attachment to God? 50 first attachment to God. 50 attachments to other things. 50 first attachment. How strong will be that attachment?
half strong.
All the strength of his attachment is divided into 51 parts. 50 parts go to other, children, wife, husband, and property, cows, land, everything. 51st attachment will be to God. Now, here is a devotee who wants to totally dedicate himself to God. That's what we are all praying. Thakur, ahoyiti ki bhakti tao, all those things. If God listens, you know what he will do first?
Take away all of
So if in future you think twice whether you want motiveless devotion or you want some devotion. Yeah. So that is why what happens, here is a devotee who has got 50 attachments and 51st attachment is to God, and he feels, I want to come to you, and he is not able to get rid of those attachments. What will God do? You see the point? If he was able to overcome all the 50 attachments, whether he overcomes or God makes him overcome, it doesn't matter. The purpose is all attachments should only turn towards God. So that is why God's grace comes in the form of taking away all those objects to which we are likely to be attached. And that is very difficult for many people to accept, to understand.
That's why Swamiji said suffering is necessary
Yes.
for spiritual.
Yes. Any place, anywhere. So that is why Shudiram's all attachments have gone. Now did he become more devoted as a result of that? Or did he lose faith? We also discussed. His reliance, his surrender to God had increased 100-fold. Now total reliance upon God. Last class we discussed why Shudiram lived like a Vanaprastha, third ashram of life. It is only because of this. Because hard tragedies. Soon after his daughter Katyayani is born, this event had taken place. And total reliance upon God. That's what God wanted. Not only that, that is also an ideal for us. If we have so many things, difficult to progress in spiritual life. Because we have weak minds. And therefore, even though intellectually we know these are attachments I should not have, difficult for us to get rid of them. That is why God does. But if we are not having faith, what happens is, I am a devotee of God. Why did God bring this tragedy upon me? That is what he will be likely to think. But Sridharam never thought like, it is your will, so whatever you do is for my good, and he became even more devoted to that is the truth. Now, what was the question we raised? Why an incarnation comes in the family, which type of family he will be born?
Poor family.
So poor family, because rich family means what happens? There are people who are born in rich families and they have become saints and they lived also very spiritual life, but their influence will not be on other people. Because when you see a person, a rich person, our judgment is that you are leading a comfortable life, you don't know what we are going through, and you may give any type of position. Rarely we see whether that person is living really like a detached rishi, whether he was living. Who are the examples we get?
Buddha.
No, Buddha had renounced.
That's
He was
what I'm
born there,
saying.
but he renounced. Because if he had not renounced, he would have still have been Buddha, but his words would not have been so influential. You have not renounced, and how can you teach renunciation to others? That is the idea. Janaka Maharaja. Krishna Bhagavan lived that kind of life. But people don't have, many people criticize Krishna. You have so many wives and so much of this thing, and you are a diplomat, you are a politician, you are a statesman, and all those things. Even devotees love to degrade their chosen deity. You are Jara and you are Chora. What more better titles you can do for anybody? You understand? Jara? Jara means lecherous fellow, who is running, immoral fellow. Chora means you understand. But what a beautiful song you came. Mera Kannaiya Makkan ka chor, like that. Very few people understand. How can we understand Krishna? Read Gita. Whole Gita is about Tyaga. When the time came, he just gave up his body, and he also advised his brother Balarama and everybody to be prepared to give up. He did not feel regret at all, as though it was all big drama. So, there may be rich people who live a rishi's life, but they cannot be ideals for other people. That's why so many people say, why? Janaka was a Raja. Janaka Rajar ki kom chilo, eidik oidik dudik reke, khiye chilo duder bati. Cool. You know what did Janaka Maharaja lack? He had this and that. Means both bhukti and mukti, both he had. What did he lack? And he enjoyed to the brim everything. That's why so many people say we want to be like Janaka. And Sri Ramakrishna used to make fun. Yes, how many children you have got? You are Janaka. So if one child, one Janaka. Two child, double Janaka. Three children, triple Janaka. But Swami, that is why we don't give the example of Janaka Maharaja. We give example of Janaka Maharaja only from the Karma Yoga point of view. But Buddha or Jesus Christ, Sri Ramakrishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could have been very rich. But he renounced everything, even though he was married and his wife was extraordinarily beautiful, Vishnu Priya. Why did he renounce? Sri Ramakrishna gives a hint. He says, why, if we do not renounce, the people will never follow our teachings. That is absolutely true. So, in which type of family an incarnation, the birth of an incarnation takes place? Only in that family where grihastha ashrama values are practiced, understood, accepted and practiced. Very briefly, we will discuss what are values. You see, values are there for a student, for a politician, for a ruler, and for a student, and for a householder, for a vanaprastha, and for a sannyasi. Values are there. So, we use that word value. This word value came from the economic field. An object is valuable when it is highly desired, then it has nothing to do with real value. An object is valuable only when its value is valued by the valuer. What does that mean? It looks like play on words. No, it is not. Suppose somebody gives you a uranium powder. What will you do? Is it valuable for you?
No.
Not only it's not valuable, it is positively dangerous for you. Suppose you give a very costly diamond ring to a baby or a Rolls Royce. So from your point of view it is very valuable. But from the viewpoint of the child, it's not only not valuable, it's a nuisance. What is he going to do? Yeah. So, what is a value? What are facts? What are values? What are goals? What is reality? What is the mediator? What is the path? 5 points. Facts. First of all, we are all dealing with facts. What is a fact? Money is a fact. Food is a fact. And home is a fact. Another human being is a fact. These are all facts. What is fact? A statement of true information is a fact. Here is a table, here is a house, here is a person, here is a golden ring, etc., etc. This is a fact. Now, what is the relationship between a fact and a value? When an object, here facts means what? An object. When an object is very highly desirable by somebody, that object is value is a value only for that particular person. So simple example is 1 kg of brinjal or potato is so much. What is it? It is a fact. But suppose this person doesn't want either brinjal or potato. Does it take the place of value?
No.
But a hungry person who wants to make use of that object, and I want this for today's food, lunch or dinner, and I require it. When the desire becomes strong, that object instantaneously, it takes a huge value, depending upon how much this person really desires it. When a fact is highly desired by a conscious thinking human being, that fact turns into what? Into a value. Now, these values, we'll discuss what are those values. When something becomes a value, the next thing that happens is this value becomes a goal. So here is a person, simple example, I want brinjal. Now I have a great desire to eat brinjal curry. But brinjal becomes a value. Now what should be the goal of the person? The goal of the person is to obtain that valued object. Suppose he says, I desire it, but I don't have that goal. That means I have no desire to buy or obtain it, borrow it or whatever it is. Then what happens? They don't become values so far as it is all intellectual. It would be nice if I had this, but since I am not aiming to obtain that, it is no more, it doesn't become a goal. So fact, common, and it must be desirable. When it is highly desirable, what does it become? A value. But even after becoming a value, that value remains only an intellectual pursuit unless it is transformed into a goal. Now, these values, when they turn into goal, this goal must be corresponding to reality. If the goal doesn't turn itself into a reality, then not only that value doesn't become value, it can be counter value. It can produce counter effect. For simple example I am giving, supposing there is a person who says that I want to become Prime Minister of UK. It is highly desirable. And it's a fact. Prime Minister of the post of the Prime Minister is a fact. And a person desires it. And so it becomes a value. Now the person's goal should be, what is the goal? To become the Prime Minister of UK. So supposing this goal is not realistic, this person is not at all fit. You see, we see that there are so many people who understand it, who want to pursue it, but very soon others understand. This person is absolutely worthless. Because do you want somebody who is going to harm you? Do you want Osama bin Laden as the Prime Minister of UK? Then he will turn the whole country into what? Into a camp of terrorists. Is it not? Do you want any such people to become Prime Minister of our country? And even if one such member becomes the ruling, you can imagine what is the damage that can happen. So, it must be leading us to the reality. Because ultimately, what is it that profits us? Reality or non-reality? What is it that helps us?
Reality.
Anything that is real makes us better people. Anything that leads to unreality, that always lands us in trouble. See how deep this discussion goes. Fact should turn into a value, value should turn into a goal, goal must be related to reality, and that reality must be my reality, not Sri Ramakrishna's reality, not anybody's reality. Then there must be a way to achieve that value, that goal. There must be a process. This is our understanding. I am here, I want to reach there, but there must be a way. So now let us discuss. We are not discussing ordinary facts. We are discussing as there are certain universal values. Everybody desires. What are universal values? That value which nobody can deny, and for everybody it is the highest goal in life, and that alone deserves the name universal value, the very word universal. What are universal values? First I will give you a few simple examples. Every human being in this world wants to be loved, wants to be wanted. Who says, I don't want to be loved by anybody? Everybody desires, I want to be loved. And will any person put any limit and say, by how many people do you want to be loved? What is our goal? By everybody. We don't want any person who doesn't love us. Is it not? So this is universally, we want everybody to be loved. This is love. Universally, everybody wants to be happy. Universally, everybody wants to be healthy. Universally, everybody wants to live a long, trouble-free, misery-free life. Apparently, on the surface, these are wanted even by animals. Even animals want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. So, these are just as an examples. But we are talking about some higher type of values. For example, truth. So we also discussed, according to the Western concept, Three values are highly valued. The supreme values according to Western philosophy. What is that? Truth, beauty, and goodness. It is Shivam, Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. This is what we want. According to Hinduism, we put it in a slightly different way. What is the supreme value? Moksha. Moksha, liberation. We have been taught from the beginning that should be the universal goal. Now, why should it be universal goal? Why can't it be only Hindu's goal? The reason is the philosophy of Vedas, Vedanta, it tells us each soul is potentially divine. Therefore, what is the highest goal? To manifest one's own divinity, and manifesting one's own divinity is called mukti, and that's why moksha is the highest goal. And the next, that is called intrinsic value, intrinsic goal. That means it is a goal for its own sake, not for anybody's sake. And whichever goals or values take us slowly to that highest goal, they are called instrumental values. We all know. What is that? Dharma, Artha and Kama. So Artha and Kama, you will notice, is sandwiched between Dharma and Moksha. So that Dharma and Artha, Kama, Artha and Kama, which do not lead either to Dharma or to Moksha, they are our greatest enemies. They have to be discarded. This is what Sri Ramakrishna said. Kam Kanchan. So he is not talking about Artha and Kama. He is talking about Artha and Kama. But Artha and Kama devoid of Dharma. Even Bhagavad Gita, Dharma viruddho bhuteshu kamo asmi bharatarshabha. I am desire unopposed to Dharma. Dharmik Kama, I am Dharmik Kama. That is what Bhagavad Gita, Hare Krishna is teaching. So according to Hinduism, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha, these are the supreme goals. That is why they are called Purusha Artha. What is Purusha Artha? Supremely desirable to every rational, sane human being. Purusha, that is called Purusha. Purusha means human being. Why Purusha, human being? Because animals cannot even think about them. Animals only can think about living and surviving, propagating, dying. That is all there. Some of these small insects, they just come out, they fly and they mate and immediately fall down dead. Their purpose is over. They are fulfilling there. But human beings, he can think, he can be rational, he can be sane. These are the four supreme values posited by Vedanta. Whether he is a householder, whether he is a brahmachari, these are being taught. So now let us see how to attain them. How to attain them? There is only one method. Are you clear about it now, this point? So facts, values, goals, then they must be related to reality, and then there must be a way to achieve them. So goals we have formulated. So how are they related to reality? Because the more dharmic we are, the more our future is assured. Okay, what is the ultimate reality? That we have no death, we have no birth, we do not belong to this transmigratory world, we are divine souls. That is the Paramarthika Satya, absolute reality. So these goals are related to what? Paramarthika reality. How? If we are dharmic. You understand dharmic? Righteous life. Then righteous life slowly takes us to higher and still higher and still higher worlds until it takes us to the highest reality, which is God. Which is God. Mukti. That is why it is related to reality. Suppose a person, his goal is to make more money by hook or crook. Does it lead to unreality or to reality? That means if any person pursues his goals, is he living more real life or is he becoming more unreal life? What is unreal life here? Unreal life means his sat becomes asat, his chit becomes achit, his ananda becomes dukkha. That means he goes down and down and down and down. Whereas pursuing these goals consciously, and there is a way to practice them, to attain them, and to progress in spiritual life, leads us to nearer to the real reality. This is all temporary reality. This is a changing world. Whatever confirms us in this changing reality is only a lower reality. Whatever takes us to the highest unchanging reality is the real reality. So this is called spiritual progress. What is spiritual progress? Progress, gradual progress in values. The more values we pursue, the nearer we will be to God. Slowly progress.
More from unreal to the real.
Yes, that is why asato ma sadgamaya. You don't progress. 1 second you are in asat, and next moment you are in absolute reality. It is a slow progress to be achieved. You are this much happy, all of a sudden you are overwhelmed by Sachidananda. That is not going to happen. Slow as our mind purifies, the reality unravels and we understand it, and to that extent we are progressing in life. This is the truth of it. Now, facts, values, goals, reality. What is the fifth factor? How do we achieve it? And what is the way to achieve it? Only one way. That way which helps us to progress gradually but surely towards the ultimate goal. It has a technical name in Vedanta. We all know it. Yoga. So that yoga can be karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga or jnana yoga. Let us take an example. Raja yoga, because we are discussing Patanjali Yoga Sutras. What is the Ashtanga Marga we call it? Eightfold. What are the very first two things? Yama and Niyama. And they are called universal dharmas. Sarva Bhaumika dharmas by Patanjali himself. Because this is what applicable to any person. It doesn't matter which religion. Only they may not use that same particular word, but he uses a different word. So who wants to be a thief? Who wants to be a lobby? Who wants to be telling lies? Who wants to have absolutely no self-control? Have you found in any religion? You can be a liar, you can be a greedy fellow, you do not need any self-control, but you will progress in spiritual life. Have you come across any such teaching? You will not come across it. They use different words, but everybody has to, while climbing, same way they have to climb. You see, if you want to lift yourself up into the sky, whether you are doing it in Australia or whether you are doing it in architect area, do you go down or do you go up? So that is what we are talking about, universal dharmas, yoga. Yoga is the one which takes us gradually, slowly but surely towards more and more and more reality, which is called God. That's why Ramakrishna says God is the only real being. Everything else is temporary. Temporary means it is not unreal. That word unreality has created a lot of problems. A non-existing thing is an unreal. Here it is not non-existing. It is existing, but we are not able to see it in its fullest aspect. That is why we call it. That's why we call it changing. It's the same reality, but it is changing. Simplest example is, I am looking this side. I can see reality only this much. I am looking this side. I can see reality this much. When I am looking at this, I am not able to look at this. And when I am looking at this, I am not able to look at that. What is my goal? I want to see everything. If I can see everything, do you know what happens? There will be no delusion. Simple. If you know one person, 100% totally, outside, inside, previous birth, next birth, then you will not feel that person is different from you. You feel that reality is the full reality. For seeing something in fullness is seeing God. Seeing something partially is called Maya. This is a human being and this is an insect. But if you see the full reality, everything is nothing but God. Okay. We have already discussed this point in a different way. Suppose you say, here is a scientist, physicist, with a very powerful electronic microscope. And then he is looking, that person looks at this table. What does he find? Physicist,
atom. Yeah.
Atom. He looks at you.
Yeah.
What does he see? Does he see Sumitra?
No.
Does he see a human being?
No. The same.
What is the difference between this atom, this matter, and the matter here? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Now, when Sri Ramakrishna, means a spiritual person, looks at everything, what do you think he will see? He will see the full reality. What is the full reality? Only God. Do you see what a wonderful thing it is? The more we progress, the more we see reality, and the culminating point of that is when we are able to see everything as it is, not in a partial, limited way, then we see only one thing. What is it? God. That means what? There are no different things. Only God is there. Pure consciousness is there. Then he will have no misery, and there is no fear, no insecurity. He will become absolutely fulfilled. Now, I am at this stage, I think Rasgulla is different from me. And I am miserable that how I can get that Rasgulla into me. Means what? I want, when that Rasgulla becomes one with me, then I am as happy as I thought I would be happy. But it doesn't last long. Yeah. So, if a person can see God, all duality will vanish. And he sees only, these are all human words. He experiences only, I am pure consciousness. That is the ultimate goal. What is the way to reach that goal? Yoga. Take any yoga. This is Sri Ramakrishna's teaching. Take any religion. Every religion is nothing but an expression of one particular yoga. Christianity, Islam, what is the yoga? Mostly Bhakti yoga. If you take Buddhism, what is the yoga? Raja yoga. Meditation. He says. If you take Advaita, it is Jnana yoga. Like that, most of the religions, they all formulate different stages suitable to different according to the qualification of the aspect. Advaita, not Vedanta. We use Vedanta in the term of what the teachings of Vedas. That is why Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita and Advaita, all the three. So in general we talk about Advaita. But if a Vishishtadvaitins come, then we have to accept that his idea of goal and my idea of goal is slight difference is there. If he says, I will go to God, I say, I also go to God. But what he meant by God, what I mean by God, there is a slight difference is there. So, these are the 5 facts let us keep in value. Facts, values, goals, reality and yoga. Why is this discussion so very important? We see that wherever great people are born, this is the process. They turn facts into values, and values into goals, goals into reality, and reality, there is a way of attaining to that reality. So, but where does it start? It starts with facts and values. Any family that has at least a minimum of these facts and turn those facts into values, then only the children born in those families have a chance to progress in life. That is the whole point we have to keep in mind. For example, suppose there is a poor family. Even poor family will have some facts. A house, a little bit of money, little bit of food, little simple dress, clothes, etc. They will have something, otherwise they will die. But they will turn these facts into values. Whereas suppose there is a rich family, they have hundreds of things lying down. They don't even know what things are lying in their homes. Not only that, they have lost that sense of values. Money has to be valued only if it is highly desirable. Otherwise, it leads to unreality. This is called Shobhana Adhyasa, superimposition. Very interesting topic. Here is a rich man. He says, I don't care for money. But you take away something from him, will he give? Rarely he gives. Only few people they give. But he doesn't understand this money is of high value. The moment he says this is of high value, then some higher rationality, reasoning comes into. If it is value for me, it also must be a value for others. And there are poor people who do not have. So it is valuable for me because it gives me happiness. And if it gives me happiness, those who do not have, they may not be that much happy. So is it not my duty to share it with others? That is where the reality comes in. But most people live in the world of what? Unreality. That means they don't think about anybody else. And those kind of people, where do you think they are heading? Towards more and more unreality. So here is an important definition. Reality is that which unites us with everything more and more. Unreality is that which separates from us from everything more and more. So that is important. Why is it important? Because if it is not related to reality, what happens? The question of yoga doesn't come. Such a person who doesn't have this reality, the question of his yoga, by hook or crook, he wants to achieve his goal. That's why values must be turned into goals. This is common for most people. But goals to be connected with reality is most important. Only such people who connect goals into reality, they will progress. The rest of the people, simply goals. But there is no relationship with reality. Another way of thinking. Here is a rich man. He never thinks that death is ever going to come to him. But what is the reality? Death is going to come. If he is highly conscious of death, then do you know what happens? His whole valuation of his life, his money, his possessions, everything changes. Now coming back, everybody is living in the world of facts. And these facts must be transformed into values. And these values must be made into goals. And the goals must be related to reality. And the reality must be reached through any particular or combination of yogas. Let us keep in mind, this is what we are going to discuss. And any family which fails to convey this sense of values unrelated to the reality, that family fails in their duty. They are not fit parents. They are not fit people to live in society. Because those are the people who are more destructive. May not be physically, but psychologically. Not only they are destroyed, not real destruction, they are retarded, but they are also influencing others and even others also, their own immediate their children. That is where a family's responsibility, that is why every grihastha has got that dharma. Now this word dharma, what does it include? It includes values, it includes goals, it includes reality, and it includes a way to achieve it, which is called yoga. So people may not express it in this rational way as we are discussing. But very sincerely they do puja and they take prasada and they do so many things. So this slowly these people convey these values like truthfulness, unselfishness, sharing with everybody, love and forbearing. All these values, they by their life, they lead the life and they also slowly influence. And the most important point is, children do not learn by teaching. You teach them. You be this, you be that, you be the other one. They are not going to learn. How do they learn? By imitation. And whom are they going to imitate? Parents. That's a most wonderful subject. We will discuss in our next class. Om Jananim Sharadam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhur Muhu.